evening to everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our special meeting of the Planning Commission, Monday, July 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. Submission of public comments. If attending the meeting, public comments will be allowed by completing a speaker slip and providing it to the Commissioner Secretary, Yesa, at the meeting. Please observe a time limit of 3 minutes when giving your presentation. Please be advised that you may not defer your 3 minutes to another speaker. With that, we'll call the meeting to order. And can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Barron?
Here.
Commissioner Brittingham has advised me that he will be out sick for this meeting. Can I get a motion and a vote to excuse his absence?
I move to excuse.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Keith?
Here.
Vice Chair Van Heining?
Here.
And Chair Cundiff.
Here. With that, our staff that's present this evening is Kelly Lucia, our Planning Director, Celine Sevilla, our Associate Planner, Kevin Anus, our Assistant City Attorney, Mike Thornton, our City Engineer, and Yesa Benson, our Commission Secretary. With that, would you please stand, remove your covers for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'll now start our public comments on non-agenda items. These will be comments that the public wishes to make on any of the items that are not being discussed tonight in the agenda. Yes, do we have any of those?
I have two, so we're just trying to sort out which agenda items. So if you could give me just 1 minute.
No agenda item?
It's going to be for item 3.
Item 3? Okay. So there's no public comments on non-agenda items. With that, we'll move to approval of the minutes. Item number 1. Can I get a motion to make an approval for the minutes?
I'll make the recommendation that we approve the minutes.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll now move on to business item number 2. This will be the extension of time 24-02 for conditional use permit 19-06 and development plan review 1906. I'll pass it over to our staff.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission, and public. Thank you for being here tonight. If I can get this to start working. Okay, there we go. So item number 2 is a business item for an extension of time to a previously approved development plan review and conditional use permit. And as you mentioned, that's CPR 19-04 and CUP 19-06. Some of you may recall this project as it has been brought forward to the Planning Commission for 2 previous actions. The project is a 2-phase project for an RV fueling canopy and coffee shop drive-through facility that is located right off of County Line Road and County Line Lane, as you can see right up on the screen in the project vicinity. Tonight, the applicant is requesting discretionary approval for a 12-month extension as this project is currently set to expire October 12, 2024. It should be noted that the developer was already granted a 12-month auto extension by Urgency Ordinance 372, which automatically extended entitlements due to the COVID-19 emergency and made the entitlement valid until October 12, 2023. In September of 2023, the applicant requested the first of 2 possible extensions of time, which was approved by Planning Commission Resolution 2023-10 and gave the project a new expiration date of October 12, 2024. If this extension of time is approved, it will be the last of the two possible requests and will give the project a new expiration date of October 2025. If at that point the applicant does not complete the project, new entitlements will be required for the drive-through coffee shop development. As you can see up on the screen, it's the little circled one. The justification for the extension request is due to a dispute with the neighbor that required the applicant to postpone construction of the coffee shop for 2 years, as well as COVID closure and Edison delays. Due to these reasons, the applicant was unable to attract potential tenants, but assures the city they now have interested parties, but require more time to finalize agreements and would incur significant expenses if not granted the extension of time. With that, I'd like to make the recommendation that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2020-14 approving extension of time 24-04 for CUP 1906 and DPR 1904 for 1 year or until October 2025. And also really quickly, I'd like to mention there was a clerical error in the staff report and reso. It did say extension of time 24-02, but it's actually 24-04. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we don't have any public comment on that, right?
It would be appropriate to ask any members in the audience if
Are-
they would like to comment.
Thank you, Kelly. Are there any members in the public this evening that would like to make a comment on this particular agenda item? Okay. Given that we don't have anyone that wants to make a comment on that, then we would make a motion. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2024-14, approving extension of time 24-04 for conditional use permit 1906 and development plan review 19-04 for 1 year until October 12, 2025, subject to the conditions of approval contained in Attachment A of PC Resolution 2024-14. And 2, find this project to be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, guidelines in accordance with state CEQA guidelines, section 15061, subsection B, paragraph 3.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. Okay, with that, we'll move on to agenda item number 4. And, oh, 3. Sorry. We'll move on to agenda item number 3. Development Plan Review 23-02, Avenue L Modular Offices. With that, I'll open public hearing, and we'll move to staff presentation.
Okay, so moving on to item number 3. Item number 3 is a public hearing for a development plan review, and that is Development Plan Review 23-02. This project is a proposal to install a 1,920 square foot modular office building for the use of professional office on an existing 0.16 acre lot. The site is located in the city's commercial neighborhood zoning designation. As you can see here in the project vicinity, it's this little blue square right at the northeast corner of the city. So I'm just going to touch a little bit on this. I'll get more into the land uses on the next slide, but as you can all see here, the project is in a commercial neighborhood zoning designation, and it is surrounded by mostly residential uses. But many of these uses, as you can see, are legal non-conforming uses in commercial neighborhood zoning designations, except the lot to the east, which is in a residential low zone. Alright, so a little bit of background. This site is located on a 0.16 acre square shaped flat lot. It has been vacant since the city incorporated in 1990. Although the site is mostly surrounded by residential uses and structures, many of the adjacent lots are legal non-conforming uses. A legal non-conforming use is one which lawfully existed prior to the effective date of the current zoning code, but which is no longer permitted in the land use district in which it is located. The intent the city had when changing the zoning designation for this area was to provide for the development of small-scale, low-intensity neighborhood commercial uses which serve in our proximity to residential neighborhoods throughout the city. Therefore, the intended commercial use does meet the zoning designation and the general plan regulations. So for the site plan, as you can see here, it will be a modified 1,920 square foot modular office, and it will be set on a permanent foundation system. 4 office units, approximately 400 square foot each, will be available for office use. Each will have its own restroom facility and entrance. A 6-foot block wall will be constructed along the perimeter of the site. The applicant will also be required to provide off-site improvements for sidewalk, curb, and gutter, as well as construct a new trash enclosure. So a minor adjustment. So pursuant to Calimesa Municipal Code, the city has approved a minor adjustment to the parking requirement. A minor adjustment allows the planning director to make adjustments from the standards contained in the zoning code only when a special circumstance exists that deprives the property of privileges under the zoning code. In this case, due to the site's constraints and size, a zoning adjustment was requested for the parking requirement. The site was originally required to provide a total of 7 parking spaces. However, because of the limits in size, approval of a total of 6 parking spaces will be provided, one of which is an ADA parking stall, and one is a loading and unloading passenger side aisle. A bike rack with a minimum of 5 spaces will also be installed. Here we have the elevations. So the modular offices will be modified to meet city design standards, and they must be approved by the California Housing and Community Development Department prior to the city issuing building permits. As you may know, any modular offices are regulated by the state, therefore they must get permits through them before they modify them. For landscaping, the applicant is providing approximately 1,939 square feet of landscape coverage throughout the site. Planters and shrubs have been incorporated for screening and buffing purposes from the residential areas. And the project is also required to construct a 6-foot decorative concrete block wall along the property lines that abut a residential use. So that is pretty much all along the perimeter, as you can see shown here, the red lines. So lighting, pursuant to Calimesa Municipal Code 18.120.060, the applicant has submitted a photometric plan prepared and certified by a qualified lighting engineer. All outdoor lighting fixtures will be installed and operated in accordance with Calimesa Municipal Code outdoor lighting regulations. So for the environmental, staff has determined that pursuant to CEQA guidelines, the proposed project is categorically exempt pursuant to section 15332, infill development. The project meets the criteria for an infill exemption because the project is consistent with the general plan policies and zoning designation. The site is located within city limits on a project site of no more than 5 acres, substantially surrounded by urban uses. The site has no value for endangered, rare, or threatened species, and approval would not result in any significant effects related to traffic, noise, air quality, or water quality. The site can be served by all utilities and public services. That staff would like to make the recommendation that the Planning Commission find the project to be categorically exempt from the CEQA environmental guidelines pursuant to section 15332 infill development, and adopt PC Resolution 2024-15 approving DPR 23-02 subject to the conditions of approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, we can go to our applicant presentation if they wish to do so.
keep this short. My name is George Dyer. I'm with City Improvement LLC. On this vacant commercial lot, we propose to build a very nice-looking 4-unit commercial building for neighborhood privacy. As Ms. Fia said, there's going to be a nice 6-foot block wall around the entire property, and that's going to look great as well. The building is under 2,000 square feet, so traffic impact will be low. The landscaping will be low water use landscaping, and overall the project is going to look very nice, and we're very excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to public testimony. First, I'll call up James Wright. Last? You just want to be on item number 6? Okay, then that comment would wait until we get to item number 6. Okay. Okay, how about Laurel Otis?
I own the neighboring property, 1049 California. That property is just too small for the planned project. There's just not enough parking. I know that there's going to be parking on my, on my property now if that development goes through, and I just don't think it's fair for a nice residential area to have that kind of impact by a commercial building on such a small lot. The lot's just not big enough for what's being proposed.
Thank you for your comment. Let's go with Adam Consolo.
Thank you for hearing us out today. My name is Adam Consolo. I am the husband of Laura Lee. I have inherited this house through marriage, and since 2009, this house has been there. And it was there before the zone was made commercial. And so, as you are familiar with the area, for all intents and purposes, although it is deemed commercial by the city, it is purely residential everywhere. It is a rental home that we have been taking as an investment, and now right next door to it, they're putting up what they're calling a beautiful cement wall, if there is such a thing. And now you will later on be hearing from the renters of this unit. Not only will this does this continue changing the neighborhood, making it less for the family, less residential, but it is going to be creating a lot more traffic and more strangers, as Laura Lee was pointing out, that they were asking for 7 parking spaces. It's so small. If you're familiar with this lot, it's automatically going to be spilling in onto the street right in front of the house. And this was something that was brought on as an investment for us, and so it is impacting that investment clearly. And so I'm here to oppose this, this commercial structure, and I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, so those are the only 2 that I have. Are there others?
I didn't fill that card. I didn't know if it was, is it too late? I'm the renter.
Go ahead. I'll allow it.
Thank you.
Please give your name, state your name.
My name is Manuel Carrillo. I reside at 1049 California Street. And like Lorelei said, the property is too small for the building that they would like to put up, the small retail business. And if I can remember correctly, the gentleman that was standing up here told me it was going to be a house, to build a house. It was the gentleman that was standing up here giving the presentation. Finding out that it's going to be some kind of a business surrounded by houses, I don't know what kind of businesses are going to be. And I have my daughter who's in college. I live there. And we don't know, it could be anything. I don't know if it's going to be a dialysis center. I don't know if it's going to be for mental people. And I just really don't want that in that part of the community. You know, I've been working really hard to fix Lorelei's house. I love her house. You know, I wish I could buy it, but she won't sell it to me. But yes, I would love to see a house there, you know, versus a business. And the cars being parked across the road, not knowing how much business is going to be there. You know, so I'm asking, you know, if I can, you know, that it would be a horrible thing to put that 6-foot wall. I'm growing oleanders. I got 47 oleanders around the property for privacy. I thought that'd be nicer than a wall. So, thank you for hearing me.
Thank you for
Appreciate you
thank you for
guys.
your comments.
Thank you.
Yace, did you get all his information and everything?
I did, thank you.
Okay. With that,
Sorry, for the record, I'd just like to clarify, it's only for professional office or retail use, so no medical office would be able to come in. I think that would require a conditional use permit, but maybe like tax preparation, consulting services, things of that nature is what would be allowed.
thank you for clarifying that. Thank you. With that, we'll move to, if the applicant has a rebuttal, we'll hear that now. If not, no? Okay. With that, we'll close public testimony, and we'll move on to commissioner discussion. We'll move down here to John.
The zone for commercial,
Yes.
I really don't have much to say about that. I mean, it's something they have to live with, die with, or whatever, but zoning is a zoning. So. That's all I have to say.
Mike?
Oh, the project is a good project. The top of the building is only 12 feet, so it's even lower than a standard single-story home. As for parking on the street and things like that, like we were just told that it could be, tax preparation, real estate, something like that, non-service where you're not there all the time, so the traffic impacts are going to be mitigated very well. I don't really see any issues with it. The size of the buildings, they fit. Yes, we're short one parking space, but it's one parking space. That's it.
Good, thank you. Christine?
I do have some questions for, so what are the hours of operation? What, what kind of tenants do you, plan on having? What are the hours of operation that are going to be? And then as far as the safety for street parking goes, when people are parking their cars and coming in and out, getting in and out of the car in the street, and parking across the street and walking across, as far as a crosswalk is there, or, I'd like to see if there's a crosswalk with maybe some lights or something like that, that would reduce the risk of any public safety hazards that may be. So, and then lighting, I think it depends on the hours of operation for your lighting. So, you want to? Sure. So the hours of operation, and then, so basically, okay, there's going to be 6 parking spots, but 2 of them are going to be utilized for handicap, which leaves 4 parking spots, and there's going to be 4 office spaces. So I'm assuming that there's employees of the office spaces that are going to be there. So that's pretty much parking for basically the employees or whoever the owners of the establishment, which leaves 0 parking for anybody coming. So my concern is public safety as far as people parking on the street and getting in and out of their cars, and then parking across the street and bringing their children in.
So,
yeah.
do you mind if I correct you there? So there are 6 parking spaces plus the ADA, 5 parking spaces plus the ADA, so 5 total. And that is just asking for 1 less parking space that we were originally required. As for public safety, I don't see the parking in this situation overflowing to the point where we're parking up and down Avenue L and across the street as well. I mean, we are talking tax centers, real estate offices, small offices, people who really just don't want to live in their house and work in their house. I feel like we got plenty of that during the COVID-19 pandemic, and people are ready to have a small office space to themselves. So when it comes to having extra cars there and public safety, because that is it is a concern, I just don't see that actually being an issue due to the fact that there is street parking right there if it is necessary, but I don't see it being beyond necessary, there being an overflow of cars coming out of this complex. I mean, the lot itself is less than 7,200 square feet, and then the building is less than 2,000 square foot, so it's really just a small building, and like one of these previous gentlemen said, we're at 12 feet. I mean, it's not much bigger than many of the houses that are going up these days. And then Do you mind repeating your next question?
The hours of operation and lighting.
Yeah, so we do have a photometric plan. It's a really great one. I don't see the hours of operation going past, I think the city requires 10 p.m. to be lights out.
9 p.m.
9 p.m. Thank you for correcting that. And I do not see the hours of operation for a tax center going past 9 p.m. at all. And so when it comes to the city such as that, that makes sense. So as for hours of operation and lighting, I mean, they will be set to not be bothering the neighbors. I mean, as you can see here, it's kind of small. We do have an FC of less than of 1 or greater, but it does not spill over the boundary line. That's really important to us because we do have neighbors with legal non-conforming use all around, and we wouldn't want to bother them too much with this lighting. And then did you have another point? I can't remember if it was just those two.
There is no crosswalk, right, at that intersection, right? For people going across, there's not. Okay. That was just a point. I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. I think as John pointed out earlier, the zoning, it complies with the zoning, and so I understand the concerns that were made. However, this meets every criteria that the city's required, so I don't have anything negative to say about it. With that, we'll move on to a motion. So if I can get somebody to make a motion on this particular agenda item.
I'll make the motion to find the project to be categorically exempt from California Environmental Quality Act guidelines pursuant to Section 15332 infill development, and 2, adopt Resolution 2024-15 approving development plan review 2302 for the purpose 4-unit retail office modular building consisting of 1,920 square feet on a vacant lot.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 4, tentative track map 38900. With that, I will pass this over to staff for presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members of the commission, public. It's always great to have such a large turnout, so thank you, everybody, for time to be here this evening. We appreciate it. So item number 4 is tentative track map 38900. This is for the enclaves of Calimesa townhomes located on Avenue L and 5th Street. This project is a proposal to subdivide approximately 8 acres into 120 residential lots. The subject this evening is only the subdivision, but if approved, the subdivision is planned to accommodate 2-story attached townhome product with condominium ownership. The units would range between around 1,300 square feet to around 1,700 square feet. Each unit would have a private 2-car garage, and there would also be guest parking. Project vicinity here, you can see it's near the kind of north of the center of the city. They're outlined in blue. Project location, you can see it's situated on Avenue L and 5th Street, just immediately east of our downtown business district. Surrounding land uses, primarily this site is surrounded by existing residential land uses. To the west, there are some existing commercial and light industrial uses, again, within our downtown district. You'll recall, the commission will recall, and maybe the public will as well, that this particular site was the subject of a rezone that was approved by the City Council last year. It's called the Residential Infill Priority Area Overlay Zone. It was initially requested to be Area 2, which would have been 35 to the acre and would have allowed apartments. However, that was rejected by the City Council. The zoning that's in place today allows only up to 15 dwelling units to the acre with a 2-story maximum, and that is what's being requested this evening. Okay, so again, the previous project here that was proposed was 240 3-story townhomes, 3-story apartments. The redesigned project is now 120 for sale townhome product with condominium ownership. Okay, this is the tentative map exhibit. Here's the site plan. So we're looking at a total of 22 single-family attached townhomes with condo ownership. A homeowners association will be established if the project is approved. This would be a gated community. In accordance with the overlay zone requirements, there would be a 7-foot perimeter block wall required on all overlay zone properties due to privacy concerns. There would be a number of private amenities within the project, including walking paseos, a tot lot, community dog park, shade shelter with picnic tables, and a barbecue island. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about inclusionary housing in the city. There's an existing municipal code requirement that any subdivision that produces 20 or more new units for sale, which this project is 120 new units for sale, there's a 5% requirement that, 5% be affordable. So what that means is that this project would be required to make a total of 6 units available to folks that are considered lower income. I included the data here. So in 2023, Riverside County median income was $97,500. As such, those 6 units would need to be made available by deed restriction for folks that have an income of around $78,000. So per municipal code definition, a family of 4 at about $78,000 a year would be considered lower income. Happy to answer questions on that piece of it after the presentation if needed. Okay. Just covers some of the information I just said. Okay, now for reference, I have the architectural plans. As part of the overlay zone approvals, there was non-discretionary review approved by the City Council for projects, the architecture. That's the reason that the only item before you tonight is the subdivision. So there was a minor development plan review for the architectural site plan, landscaping, floor plans, and so on, that was previously approved, so these plans before you are being provided for reference only. But I wanted to show, and this view, you're looking at an entrance there. You can see there's a solid metal gate. There would be a roundabout for, an on-site roundabout for queuing, and a standard kind of gate box for entry, because again, it is a gated, proposed to be a gated community. Okay, this is a view of the mature landscaping that would be required. So we did quite a bit of work with landowners, council, planning commission, when talking about what it would mean to increase densities on infill lots. And a huge concern we heard over and over was privacy. And so 2 of the items that we put in place in the ordinance were mature landscaping required at installation, and also 7-foot tall block walls. And so this is a view of what an adjacent property owner might see: tall wall, nice trees, and kind of through those trees, the development there. Again, architectural elevations. This is the internal view of the paseos. So the buildings are intentionally facing inward so as to, again, address privacy concerns, and so this is a view shed of an internal walking paseo for the residents to utilize. In terms of environmental, so back in 2023, when the overlay zone ordinance was approved, the City Council also approved Environmental Assessment 2205, that certified environmental impact report for the overlay zone, and adopted a mitigation monitoring program. So this track, TTM 38900, is an implementing project within the overlay zone and is within the scope of and consistent with the overlay zone EIR. If approved, this map will be subject to the MMRP and all applicable mitigation measures. And as such, the project has prepared a number of site-specific technical studies, including a TIA, a transportation impact analysis, air quality and greenhouse gas analysis, and also a noise analysis to show compliance with that overall EIR that was previously certified. Okay, with that, we have a recommendation for approval. And any questions? Myself and also the city engineer, Mike Thornton, are here. We do also have the applicant in attendance if anybody from West Coast Entitlement would like to make a statement.
Good evening, Craig East with West Coast Entitlement, 543 West John Glen Road here in Calimesa. I'll make it quick. I've seen the size of your agenda, so I'll try to be as quick as possible. I think Kelly pretty much touched on everything. Up here speaking for Jim Watson, Watson Associates, who I've worked with for quite some time, does some very nice projects all over the Inland Empire, a lot of student housing, condos, things of that nature. And we spent a long time on this to come up with the right plan that worked. I did turn in some signatures that were collected from neighbors on Myrtlewood and Avenue L and 5th that the preference would be for a for sale project, which is the reason for the tentative map, as opposed to a rental project. Just bringing pride of ownership into the community and more long-term residents to the neighborhood and the people that will be shopping in the downtown area there. I think Kelly explained it well. I do want to point out there's 350 trees in this project, so she had us really design it. So, but the architect is here with KTGY. Ed Bondeman with Bondeman Associates, who did the civil engineering, is here. So, any questions you have on anything, we can answer. But this is mainly about the tentative map, which is just making sure it's a for sale project instead of a rental project. So,
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to public testimony. And can we have Kevin Nichols?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I live real close to this project, and I have to say it first, it is a nice looking project. I am for the growth. Like this, a gated community would be nice. What I can't believe is we're still talking about 120 units. And we were here last fall talking about this. I think the two big concerns were 3-story and close to 200 units. This is 120 units times probably 2 cars per unit, at least. And on Avenue L, and I think most everybody who lives here knows Avenue L by 5th and whatnot. And just to make a trip, just to pull into my driveway, to pull out of my driveway, Avenue L is a race zone. And the city knows this. I know you guys know this. Planning Commission knows it, City Council knows it, and all the residents know it. So that is my concern, is the amount that we're trying to build there. And I understand the builder wants to get every inch of that covered with with things they can sell. But at the same time, I think it'd be irresponsible to put that many homes, 200 more cars in those intersections that cannot be and won't be changed. We don't have the police now, and I lived here for 32 years, or have lived here for 32 years. So I don't think it's going to change much. It's going to get worse. That circle on 5th and County Line is used, and Avenue L, you know, has reduced some of the traffic on Avenue L, but not even close. That's my complaint. So, thanks for hearing.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Carolyn Culverhouse?
Hi, I live at 459 West Avenue L, which is going to be right beside the new project, and their driveway is going to be going out. It's going to be pointed towards Kevin's house, so all the cars that go in and out will be pointing their headlights towards him. My question is, and we did not know this, we got this maybe on Wednesday, so we were not informed that there were going to be 120 um, apartments put next door, condos. We had a gentleman come by who said he was Kelly Hickman's fiance, and he came around on Saturday to do the partition. I started asking questions. He was very ill-informed. So unfortunately, Kelly did not get with us on this privacy issue. We heard nothing about that. So 267 parking spaces for 3 and 4 bedroom apartments. That's just not enough. You know, there are going to be family units with children there who are going to grow up and have driver's license. And so, you know, you potentially have, if everybody in the house has a driver's license and a car, you may have 600 more cars in that area. And now they allow parking on Avenue L. I almost got hit today coming in my driveway. Someone went around me on the right side. I heard from Kelly that they're going to put a traffic light at 5th and West Avenue L. People do not stop at, oh, I guess that's not so. People don't stop at that stop sign anyway. You know, they ride right through it like it's not even there. So we have a bad traffic issue on West Avenue L, and you plan to put a lot more cars on there. So as a homeowner, this is a big problem. We already have a problem with the traffic on Avenue L. So my question is, what are you going to do about that? Plus the fact we don't have a police department. If we have to call for police, they come from Cabazon. That's 15 or 20 minutes. So you keep adding all these people to the area, which I understand you need to add people, but you're not doing anything to help the residents that are here. So I would like to have my questions answered. I know you don't have time now.
Thank you, ma'am. That was the last public comment that I have for this particular agenda item. With that, if there's any rebuttal from the applicant.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments and took note. I do want to say that we did do a traffic study based on this, and originally, the original amount that I think we came up with was like, originally the project, which was 3-story, was like 280 apartments, so we did go down significantly. And secondly, we have agreed that, you know, to do our fair share of any signaling at Avenue L and Fifth, you know, Fifth as it comes along. So we, you know, we are willing to do our share to make sure that things are taken care of, and also remember that this is a gated community, so people going in and out of there are regulated. There's not a lot of cars coming out at a time. So
Very, very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, with that, we'll close public testimony. We'll go to commissioners' discussion. John, I'll go to you.
Well, it's a beautiful looking project. I can understand people worried about traffic, because no matter where you are in Calimesa, there's traffic. And I know there's a lot of pressure in the state to get more homes, facilities for people to live in, to move into. Can you use the microphone, please? I'm sorry. Hello there. Yes, I know there's a lot of traffic issues in the city, and hopefully we'll increase our law enforcement. But it is a good-looking project, and the pressure put on from California government, it's a necessary thing to look at. But I really don't have much else to say other than it does look good, and I appreciate the effort put into it by our planning director, and that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
Well, I can sympathize with the residents on that street because I used to live at Bryant and Avenue L, so I know all about how that traffic is and the people that do and do not stop at the stop signs and stuff, so. But I have a school in front of my house now too, so I have the same issue with cars passing me trying to get into my driveway. Other than, I really didn't see anything. I'm really happy that Craig brought back a really nice project this time. This is, you know, I see nothing wrong. I've looked this thing out. I've looked at the study here from LSA and gone through everything with a fine-tooth comb, and I cannot find anything that doesn't work, and I think it's a good project, so.
Okay, thank you.
I like it.
Thank you. Christine?
Yeah, I love to see the redesign is absolutely beautiful. I love townhomes. and I really do like the pride of ownership with townhomes. They're so clean, and as far as the parking goes, I love how all the parking just goes right in the garage, right underneath, and there's no parking, covered parking or anything like that. With it being, I'd like to reiterate too, like you said, with it being gated, it does, it slows the traffic a lot. And I've been in plenty of townhomes in different cities, and watching the traffic in and out, it's really minimal, and especially for 120 units. A lot of these bigger townhomes are usually, 240 plus, and the traffic coming in and out isn't even really that bad. So I would like to address some of the concerns of the public, though, as far as traffic, what's upcoming, maybe, Mike, on Avenue L and 5th for like some, crosswalks, streetlights, something like that. And then I'd also like if you could address the police concerns, because I know that we do have updated police standards in place now that we have, and they're not coming all the way from Cabazon anymore on call, so we do have protection for us. So
Sure, I'll take the first stab at the sheriff response. So you'll note we do have Riverside Sheriff officers in the room this evening. They're very accessible as needed. I would also ask the public and any folks interested in detailed discussion on our levels of public safety, take a look at the public safety workshop that was recently conducted. It was with our police chief, our fire chief, and the city council. We also have a member of our city council that is a police officer, and so he has a concerted interest in making sure that police levels are adequate. Per the findings of that workshop, they did find that there were adequate police levels based on the population and projected growth in the city. And so again, I would ask that folks please take a listen to that workshop. There's a lot of great information in there.
can you remind them what date that was so they can find it on our YouTube channel?
Yes, let me, I will try to find that while Mike works on his answer.
Okay.
So, the project did do a traffic impact analysis. It identified the intersection of Avenue L and 5th as warranting a traffic signal. The project is conditioned to pay a fair share contribution toward a future signal at that location. We don't have any signals along Avenue L today other than the one at Calimesa Boulevard. So, it would be a capital improvement project in the future. As the Commission is very aware, our capital improvement funds are limited, so this contribution will help. It's a step in the right direction, but it will not fully fund the improvement. So over time, we would hope to accumulate funds, and then council would make a decision as to which projects are done each year for capital improvements. But this will be a project that will be on our radar screen.
And the date for that public safety workshop was April the 29th, 2024. So please take a look at the city's YouTube channel for that recording.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Comments that I've got is I appreciate that these are not going to be units for rent. I think that's very important, especially as we've been discussing housing needs and arena numbers, and the fact that these will be more affordable income homes to newer families or younger families starting out. So I like the project. I think it's good for the city. I think it's good to bring people close to a downtown area that can walk to the store if they want to, or walk to shops or restaurants that are relatively close. So I think it's a good thing. With that, we'll go ahead and move to have a motion to vote on this particular agenda item.
I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2024-16, Attachment F, finding that the project is consistent within the scope of the Environmental Assessment 2205, EA 2205, for Residential Infill Priority Area Overlay Zone, the RIPOZAZ Environmental Impact Report, EIR, Schedule 2022030-754, and adopt the findings, re-adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, and approve the tentative track map 38900, subject to the conditions of approval.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 5. And just, do you want me to address that, or do you, for Mike? Okay, with that, I'll pass it over to staff.
Thank you, Chairman. Item number 5 is a public hearing for General Plan Amendment 2102, which is recommended adoption of the 2021 to 2029 six-cycle housing element, and Zone Change 2101, Amendment 1, which constitutes amendments to the Residential Infill Priority Area Overlay Zone, Area 2. Okay, the purpose of GPA 2102 is, again, to review and consider recommendation of the city's six-cycle housing element, which is required by state housing law, and Zone Change 2101, Amendment 1. So we are being required by the state to make some revisions to the overlay zone that was previously approved in 2023. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Bryant De La Torre, who is with Kimley Horn on behalf of our housing element consultant.
I'm named Bryant De La Torre with Kimley Horn, housing element consultant for the city. First, I just want to start with what a housing element is. I know we've had a couple workshops and meetings and whatnot, but just for the public and stakeholders in the room and online, the housing element is a chapter of the general plan. It's the only chapter that needs to be regularly updated. So every 8 years, every jurisdiction in California is required to update it to accommodate for its housing need. So in the housing element, you identify the housing need for the city for the next 8 years. And in the housing element, every jurisdiction has to justify how it can accommodate its need. This project isn't approving any projects. It's not a project per se as like the item before that's something's going to be built. Just a plan to accommodate and make sure that we can accommodate this future need. This is the only element of the general plan that needs to be reviewed by a state department. So this document is reviewed by the California Department of Housing and Community Development. So in this process, we engage the community, we engage stakeholders, residents into the process to identify both what the existing need is and what the future of Calimesa will look like related to housing. So in the document, again, we demonstrate the city's ability to meet our current and future housing need for both current residents and future residents. And again, the intent of the document is to be certified, and to be certified, what that means is to be reviewed against all state housing laws. All right, so the housing element process is initiated by the RHNA process. So RHNA stands for Regional Housing Needs Assessment. So what this is, it's identification of the housing need in Calimesa. So the housing need is for a period of 8 years, so 2021 through 2029. In a bit, we'll go into exactly what the total was. But again, the housing element, the intent is to address this RHNA, so this housing need. The RHNA will start from the state, so the California Department of Housing and Community Development develops overall unit goal for the whole state. That total is then passed down to local councils of governments. For Calimesa, it is SCAG, so the Southern California Association of Governments has their methodology to identify what the need is for individual jurisdictions. So for this sixth cycle, which is the planning period from 2021 to 2029, is a total of 2,017 units. And these units are broken down by income categories. So on the screen, you'll see 4 income categories. So you have very low income, low income, moderate income, and above moderate income. And for these income ranges that you'll see kind of in the middle, that is what those income ranges are for each category. So for example, very low income, a family that would be considered very low income would be a household of 4 persons. that have an annual income of approximately 51,000. So in that category, the city was required to accommodate 495 units, and then so on and so forth. So that last income category is above moderate income. That's what we would call a market rate, and that's for a household of 4 with the annual income of about 117,000 per year. And you'll see that that category is the category with the highest, just because that is the need. There's a need for market rate, but obviously there's a need for more affordable units as well. So kind of dive into what is in the housing element. So one of the big parts of the housing element is the community profile. It's really a snapshot of our community. What's the demographics? What is what types of jobs do we have here? What does our housing stock look like? How large is it? What's the condition of our housing stock? And then we also look at special needs. So when we think of special housing needs, we think of large households, seniors, female-headed households, single-parent households, persons with disabilities, so on and so forth. So we analyze that in our community profile, try to get a bigger picture of what do we have here currently in the city. And then we look at housing costs. So our residents overpaying for housing. Overpayment would be considered 30% or more of a person's monthly income. So then we look at the breakdown, what's the percentage of residents that are owners and renters, and we analyze that to develop some of our programs and policies. Then we go into the housing constraints and resources section. So what this section analyzes is if the city has any constraints. Is there any governmental constraints? So does our zoning code, our municipal code constrain development? Is there non-governmental constraints? So constraints that are outside of local government. So for example, is the market just not proposing projects? Is financing not available? Is financing a constraint? And then lastly, we look at environmental and infrastructure constraints. So do we have high fire severity zones that don't allow us to develop in certain areas? Is there flood zones that constrict where we can develop? We identify all of those constraints to make sure that we can develop a plan that can feasibly be facilitated in the city without being constrained by our existing constraints. And lastly, in this section, we wrap it up with a term called AFFH, so Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing. And in this analysis, we just want to make sure that all persons, regardless of income or protected characteristic, can have access to housing within the city. And again, every jurisdiction has to do this analysis, so we also take a regional approach. All right, so and then chapter 4, we have our housing plan. So in this housing plan, we have 4 overarching themes. You'll see H1 through H4. These are kind of the guiding principles, as you would say, and then within these individual goals, we have policies and programs to enact our housing element. So these are our goals and programs that are meant to facilitate development at all income categories. This is kind of the teeth of the document. These are the programs that the city will implement to encourage development within the city. And again, these programs and plans are meant to put the power back into the city's hands of how we want to see the city develop. It's really kind of a plan for the future, but again, it's accommodating the need. The city's not required to develop the units, and this project is not approving any units as well. And again, we have 3 appendices. So we have a review of past performance. So this is just reviewing our progress in the last housing element cycle. So 2014 through 2021. How did we do? Did we meet our RENA numbers? Did we accomplish our goals? Did we implement our programs? And we evaluate that, and based off that evaluation, we determine what best course of action is for this cycle. So it's good to look back, see what our benchmarks were. Did we meet them? If we didn't, how are we going to do better in this cycle? Appendix B is probably, in my opinion, the most important part besides the housing plan is the adequate sites analysis. So this is how we're going to accommodate our sites. So where we're going to accommodate them, how we're going to accommodate them, what is our strategy? We identify that all in Appendix B. And lastly, it's Appendix C. So this kind of just summarizes all the community engagement events that were held here in the city as part of the housing element program. right, so this effort started back in May of 2021. So I know it's been a while, about 3 years or so. This is in past housing element cycles. Typically, jurisdictions have been certified within like 1 to 2 review cycles with the state. Now we're seeing jurisdictions go up to, there's one jurisdiction in the Skag region that's gone up to 7 reviews. So there's been, I think, 180 different housing-related laws passed since 2018, and that's what HCD is kind of slow on, is implementing all these laws, which requires more review on their part. So again, in May of 2021, we had our first workshop related to housing. This also included the overlay zone, which we'll discuss in a bit. And then, yeah, most of 2021, a lot of workshops, both with the public, with City Council, Planning Commission. And then fast forward to August, September, and October of last year, we had our public hearings for the residential infill priority, the RIP AOZ, this is the overlay zone, to ultimately recommend and approve the overlay zone, which is one of our strategies within the housing element. So although it's a separate approval, it's integrated as part of the housing element strategy. So without the overlay zone, it's integrated into the housing element, so it's really a package in there. So next we're going to go into the overlay zone, which I couldn't remember off the top of my head, but residential infill priority area overlay zone. From now on, I'm just going to refer to it as RIP AOZ. So this RIP AOZ was a strategy that was proposed in the housing element to accommodate our shortfall of sites. So when we had the housing element, we identified our existing capacity based off our existing zoning. So how much can we accommodate based off of what we already have. We identified pipeline projects. These are projects that were either approved but not yet permitted, or projects that were currently under review and were active in the review process. We projected out our ADU projections for this cycle, and once we identified all of those, we still had a shortfall of sites, and the intent of the overlay zone was to accommodate that remaining need. So our last meeting with you all was in August or September. It was adopted in October by City Council, and once we had that adopted, we resubmitted the housing element to HCD, and then in January 19th, we received a letter that said the city's in compliance with the exception of minor revisions to the overlay zone to comply with Government Code Section 65583. .2, subdivisions H and I specifically. So we made those items, which will go, those amendments to that section of the overlay zone, which we'll go over in a second. But again, I want to reiterate that HCD provided confirmation of statutory compliance for the housing element with the minor nuance of having to revise this part of the overlay zone. So again, in response to that letter that we received in January 19th, staff began drafting that amendment to the overlay zone, which is what we're considering tonight. And the proposed amendment is for 7 parcels within Area 2 of the overlay zone. So there's, I believe, 36 parcels total in the overlay zone. Area 2 only comprises of 7 parcels. And that Area 1 allows up to 15 dwelling units per acre. The item right before this one, that would fall into Area 1, so up to 15 dwelling units per acre. So these are townhomes, condos, duplexes, so forth. And then the Area 2 would allow up to 35 dwelling units per acre, would allow same product types as Area 1, plus apartments or higher density units at that density. So the amendments that are being proposed tonight to amend the original RIP AOZ, which was adopted back in October, comes directly from HCD and is meant to comply with that government code. And in these areas, the changes that are being proposed is that if a parcel in Area 2, so one of those 7 parcels in Area 2 allow mixed use, then the overlay should permit 100% residential on that property. And there should not be minimum or a minimum non-residential component. So if an applicant came in and wanted to propose 100% residential on a mixed-use lot, it should be encouraged. And the second point here is in Area 2, these 7 parcels, so if an applicant came in and proposed at least 20% affordable on that parcel, it would be a non-discretionary action. So as long as the applicant complied with development standards, design standards, it's essentially a non-discretionary action. And then the second one is similar to the first, but if one of those parcels within Area 2, so one of those 7 parcels was used in a in a 4th or 5th cycle housing element, so in one of the last 2 housing elements, they would also receive a non-discretionary action. But the nuance is that if the parcel is non-vacant and used in the last cycle, it would have a non-discretionary action, or if it was vacant and it was used in 2 past cycles, this would apply. That's a little nuance there. And then this last one is in that Area 2 where those 7 parcels are located, we would establish a minimum density. So the minimum density would be 20 dwelling units. So the change of that range would be 20 to 35 dwelling units. The maximum does not change. It just sets a minimum there.
And if I can just jump in, Brian, thank you. On that last bullet point, I want to make sure the commission and public really understand what HCD is requiring of us. So this is not city initiated. This is the state of California is requiring this. Previously, when we brought the overlay zone forward, we said this is all about choice. If an applicant wants to come forward with a very low density project, fine by us. If they want to go up to 15 or 35, depending on which area they're in, fine by us. So the state took a look at that and said that's not going to work for your high density area. So Area 1, which is all of the areas, I'll call it east of I-10, remain unchanged. The parcels that you'll recall are in Area 2 off of Avenue L, those now will have a minimum density of 20 dwelling units to the acre, which essentially means they must be apartments. I just want to make sure everybody understands that point. Minimum density is being required by the state.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, and now we move on to next steps. So again, on January 19th, we received a findings letter from HCD stating that the housing element was in statutory compliance. Last piece was to both locally adopt the housing element and also to adopt amendments to the overlay zone, which we just reviewed now. On April 11th, staff and our consultant team requested that HCD review the amendments as proposed tonight to confirm that the revisions are compliant with that government code. We hounded them down. I know Kelly and I sent them countless messages from April 11th till May 23rd, but we finally got a response on April 23rd that the amendments were compliant with that government code, and that the housing element that's being, both the overlay amendments and the housing element as proposed were compliant. So the next step is to submit. So once the city adopts locally both the overlay and the housing element, we will resubmit to HCD, and upon resubmittal, HCD has up to 60 days to provide a certification letter, but we anticipate that because they've already seen the document, they've already provided that confirmation, it should be sooner than 60 days, but statutorily they have up to 60 days to provide that response. And with that,
Okay, so we have some recommended actions here before you. The first is for recommended action of a zone change for the overlay zone revisions. The second being the recommended that the City Council approve the general plan amendment locally adopting the housing element. We do have the City Attorney here on the line. Also myself and Brian are available. Prior to passing it over to the Planning Commission for discussion, we do have one conflict of interest. And Mike Barron, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I do have a conflict with item number 1. I'll have to recuse myself or abstain from voting on that one, but I can't vote on number 2.
Okay. Does he have to leave, or can he stay here?
I'm going to ask the attorney. Kevin, does Commissioner Barron need to leave the room, or can he remain on the dais? perhaps out of an abundance of, oh, he's unmuted. There we go.
Yes, when he is required to recuse it, item one, he should announce it and then leave the room during consideration of that item.
Thank you.
Can we call him back in? when we're
Yep,
done?
we'll
Okay.
call him back in. And just for the record, Commissioner Barron is conflicted because he owns real property.
Yes, that's the requirement to leave the room during the consideration of that item.
Thank you. Commissioner Barron is conflicted because he owns real property within 500 feet of overlay zone area 2.
Yep.
So with that, I would ask that the commission limit your discussion and vote to recommended action number 1, and then we will call Commissioner Barron back in for recommended action number 2.
Okay, so we vote on item number 1?
Item 1,
Okay.
which is the zone change amendments, and then Commissioner Barron will come back in for the
number
general
2.
plan
Okay.
amendment.
John?
Well, I definitely approve it, the one, and I know Mrs. Lucia did a lot of time hauling us commissioners around town, looking at available property and whatever. So it's been 3 years of hard work, I know, so I'm for it.
Okay. Thank you. Kristen?
I don't think we really have a choice, right? I mean, it's either that or the state comes in and does it for us?
Yeah, so if we were to not adopt a compliant housing element and the implementing overlay zone, there are consequences, which we've covered in previous meetings, including reduction of discretionary action, correct, related to housing projects?
Correct.
And so if we were to not approve the plan as presented, staff would need to go back and make further revisions. As Bryant pointed out, this housing element cycle is meant to cover 2021 through 2029, and we are already in 2024. So through extensive back and forth with the state of California, we are already technically 3 years late. So staff would recommend that we move forward with the plan as presented, subject to the commission's discretion.
And there's no, can you tell us one more time, since there's no maps?
Yes, the area that's subject to this revision. So it's going to be 7 parcels that are located, let's see, west of the I-10. It's going to be the Area 2 designation that is immediately east of Mesa View Middle School, inclusive of South Mesa Mobile Home Park. So there's essentially a large field, if anybody knows where Commissioner Barron lives, right across the street from his home. And I don't have the acreage offhand, but I would say it's probably in the neighborhood of, 40 acres or so. If you were to go in that area, again, large undeveloped land. 3 of the parcels are completely undeveloped, and 4 of them are partially or fully developed. But that is the general area. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So we were compliant with our RENA numbers and everything else in October because of what we changed. Is that correct?
Yes, but they have,
Then they decided to change it on us again and say, hey, thanks for doing that, but now we want you to put apartments in there instead of homes or townhomes.
so they didn't give us full compliance back in October. They are now saying you're almost there, but you need to make these revisions related to discretionary or non-discretionary approvals of future residential projects. And then again, this Area 2 designation, they are requiring a minimum density. So what we thought would be acceptable is that we were allowing the option to have either low or high density in this area, but because Area 2 accommodates what's considered lower income category, which is anything above 20 dwelling units to the acre, the state of California said for that particular area, it can range between 20 to the acre or 35 to the acre, but no less. So that wasn't previously in our ordinance, and in my opinion, that's the most dramatic requirement that we're being asked to comply with.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Noted.
Yeah. All right. So we're between a rock and a hard place, really, unfortunately. Okay. So then I guess what we need to do is see if somebody wants to make a motion to adopt.
I think we should see if there are any public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I know I don't have any slips for it, so if anyone here would like to make any comment on this particular agenda item that we're discussing. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone is interested in that. Thank you. So with that, does anyone want to make a motion for item number 1?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt PC Resolution 2024-17, recommending that the City Council approve Zone Change 2101, Amendment 1, amending Chapter 18.20 Residential Zone Districts and Chapter 1890 Development Plan Review, the municipal code to clarify the review procedures and standards applicable to housing projects on site, subject to the residential infill priority area overlay zone area 2, and to comply with state housing element law to comply with state housing element law.
Can I get a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. So that one's done. All three of us voted yes for that one. So with that, we can call Chairman Barron back in.
Commissioner Barron.
Commissioner Barron.
You're the chairman now.
He's been the chairman for so
I know.
long.
25 years.
I just tried to promote you. For the next agenda item, of course.
Okay, and again, the commission is now having a discussion about recommended adoption of the housing element as a whole, exclusive of the overlay zone amendment that was just voted on.
Yes. Okay. So item number 1 was handled, so now I need someone to make a motion on item number 2 of this agenda, item number 5.
I can do that. I make the motion that we adopt a PC Resolution 2024-18 recommending the City of Calimesa approve General Plan Amendment 2102, adopting the City of Calimesa 6th Cycle Housing Element Update.
Can I get a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. That's it for agenda item number 5. At this particular time, we're going to take a 5-minute break to allow for staff to do some rearranging and setup, and we'll begin promptly in 5 minutes. I said, can we get Chairman Barron back in here? And they're like, Commissioner Barron. Sorry. like to welcome everyone back to our meeting. We're now going to begin agenda item number 6. I'd first like to say thank you to everyone for being here, and just remind everyone, please be patient and please be courteous as we're listening to different individuals talk, either for or against whatever their position is. Please be respectful and kind to the people that are putting their time up to discuss this item, okay? With that, I'll pass over to staff to brief us on agenda item number 6.
Thank you, Chairman. Agenda item number 6 is for the Bercher Logistics Center at Oak Valley North. This is approximately 110 acres of industrial/logistic and residential uses. There are a number of entitlements being requested, environmental assessment, certifying project environmental impact report, a general plan amendment, zone change to establish specific plan area 4 in the city, and then there are a number of implementing projects being requested as well. So there are a number of development plan reviews and conditional use permits that would approve the specific site design within that specific plan. This is a lengthy presentation. I will go through it quickly. Thank you for your patience. Okay, here's the project vicinity. We are looking at just about the center of the city. This is, I'll call it south of Singleton and southwest of Beckwith Avenue off of the I-10 Singleton interchange. Project location here. You can see the boundary of this area. Here are some site photos, so folks may be familiar with the little hill with the house on top of it when you're passing Singleton. If you're going west, it's on your right, so that's what's shown in photo number 1 here. And number 2 is another viewpoint. This is the southern corner of the project site along Calimesa Boulevard, looking north. Sure. I'm going to change mics. Okay, here's some additional site photos. This is the project site along Beckwith, looking south, and photo number 4 is the northern corner of the project site looking north. Okay, the specific plan contains a statement of objectives. I won't go through each and every one here, but including the objectives include efficiently developed and underutilized property. Again, this is about 100 acres that is currently undeveloped. Another objective is to establish a master plan development, expand the economic development of the city, facilitate job creation, increase the tax base for the city of Calimesa, and so on. Okay, so this component is the general plan amendment to the left of the screen. You will see the existing land use designation. It's a little faint, but again, you'll see the project boundary outlined in blue. So I'd just like to bring the commission and public's attention to the existing zoning, which is a combination of business park, light industrial, and residential low medium. Again, that's existing zoning. Proposed would be business park within planning area 1 of the specific plan, and then residential high within planning area 2, and that graphic is depicted to the right of the screen. Okay, there's also a companion zone change. Currently, our land use, general plan land use and zoning designations are the same, so you'll see the same map on the left. To the right, the zoning that's proposed is specific plan area 4. So the commission and public may be aware, we currently have 3 adopted specific plans within the city. They are Mesa Verde, Summerwind, and Heritage Oaks. If approved, this would be specific plan area 4 for Oak Valley North. Okay, again, this is the proposed specific plan area. Kind of zoomed in, you can see those 2 planning areas I referenced. Planning area 1 with business park, looks like we're at about 95 acres. And then for planning area 2, residential high, it's looking like about 11 acres. This is a conceptual layout, number 1. So this shows a 4-building plan with 2 proposed trailer storage lots, which we'll get into detail lot by lot in a moment. But I'd like to bring your attention to the bottom right of the screen. This layout shows a potential multifamily development of about 223 residential units at 20 dwelling units to the acre. So again, that would be a multifamily development if that was to develop residentially. Here's the business park architectural theme, so you can see here, and also the dock doors that are being proposed. We did work with the applicant to request kind of earthen tones here, so you'll see kind of muted earth tones throughout the specific plan on the color palette. Okay, so that again is going to be that multifamily layout. This would be sample architecture that's shown within the specific plan. If planning area 2 were to develop residentially, maybe the architecture would be farmhouse, craftsman, or mission revival. And there would be a future development plan review approved for any proposed architectural and specific site plan. I would like to note that in that bundle of entitlements being requested tonight, there are no requested for area 2, which is why you're going to see me toggle back and forth between different concepts. It could be a residential high planning area, but within that zoning designation, it would also permit development of a church. So maybe notably, the Catholic Diocese owns planning area, what will be planning area 2. And so maybe it would be residential development, but potentially in the future, the Catholic Church may want to develop a church there. And so if that were to be the use there, there's approximately 1,200 seat place of worship. So those are kind of the two options for planning area 2. Planning area 1 under both scenarios remains the same. Okay, so there are, as I stated, implementing projects. So we're going to get down to each different planning area within. So this is the overall tentative parcel map. This would be the approval, if approved, of the subdivision application, and so this would move the parcel lines. Currently, there's a configuration in place today, and tentative and final maps record different parcel lines that would follow ownership lines for the project as proposed. So this is the subdivision application. Okay, this is the overall site plan, just kind of in black and white. Let's see here. All right, so building 1 is about 14 acres. There are about 235,000 square feet of building space being requested, with 20,000 square feet of office and about 216,000 square feet of actual warehouse. Building 1 would have 37 loading dock doors, about 199 auto parking stalls, and 30 trailer parking stalls. And so I would direct everyone's attention to the left of the screen. That is going to be building number 1 to the left. This is the overall landscape plan. I'll get into the other buildings in just a moment. Here's the overall landscape plan for the site. So adjacent to public right-of-way, you see a significant amount of landscaping, trees. There's also a trail proposed, which we'll get into in just a moment. But towards the bottom of the screen is Calimesa Boulevard. Top of the screen is Beckwith Avenue. Okay, this is an overall wall and fence plan. We do have a number of amenities proposed, architectural enhancements proposed along exterior walls, including pilasters every 50 feet to make it look nice. Okay, so there's building 1 again. It's a development plan review and a conditional use permit. And again, we're looking at about 14 acres and about 235,000 square feet of building. And to the left of the screen, that's Calimesa Boulevard, there for reference. Here are the elevations. The elevations between the buildings are going to be intentionally very similar. This is meant to be a cohesive business park that looks like the buildings flow together. So you may see some elevations that look pretty similar as we go through the presentation. Okay, it's building 1 landscape. Okay, building 2. This is about 16 acres. The square footage here is 249,000 square feet with 20,000 square feet of office space, 74 loading dock doors, 190 auto parking stalls, and no trailer parking stalls for building 2. Similar elevations. And there's the landscaping. Building 3, this is DPR 2207, CUP 2204. Building 3 is just shy of 14 acres as well. We're at 249,000 square feet of building square footage, also 20,000 square feet of office space, and 229,000 square feet of which are warehouse. 93 loading dock doors, 187 parking stalls for autos, zero trailer parking stalls. Elevations that match with the architectural theme of the proposed specific plan, and landscaping consistent with the municipal code and proposed specific plan area. Okay, this is the final building. Again, what's being proposed are 4 buildings, all less than 250,000 square feet, which very notably is the city's industrial maximum for warehouse facilities. And so all of these buildings do meet that requirement. Building 4 is also about 16 acres. We've got 246,000 square feet, same amount of office space at 20,000, 50 loading dock doors on this building, 183 auto parking stalls, and 77 trailer parking stalls. Elevations, that is the landscaping for building 4. So we've now covered 4 out of 4 buildings that are being proposed. There's also another land use. And so folks that are familiar with the specific plan may be familiar with the trailer storage lot that was approved down in the Oak Valley Town Center. This is a very similar concept. So within the map and within the site plan, within the specific plan, there are 2 trailer storage lots that are being proposed. They don't contain any significant building square footage. There will likely be a guard shack for security purposes, walls and fences, that sort of thing, but no significant buildings. This is trailer storage. So trailer lot 1 is about 10 acres, 7 of which are usable. This would accommodate 232 trailer parking spaces, 5 auto parking stalls, and again, access would be controlled by a guard shack. Okay, landscaping, again, you'll see Beckwith along the top part of the screen there. Okay, so just very similar, identical actually, to trailer storage lot 1. We have trailer storage lot 2. This one's larger. It's about 28 gross acres with 17 acres that are usable. There would be 708 trailer parking spaces, 5 auto parking stalls, and access again would be controlled by a guard shack. There's the landscaping. You can see to the top of the screen is Beckwith Avenue. All right, here's our circulation overview. You can see with the blue star there indicated near the center of the screen, that is the project site. So trails map just for reference. Okay, here's the circulation plan. So the project has frontage on 2 roads, direct frontage, one of which is Calimesa Boulevard shown in blue. That is the primary access for all planning areas, including those trailer storage lots that are in the back. If this project is approved, all uses would take access off of Calimesa Boulevard. However, our public safety folks require multiple points of access in the case of an emergency. So Beckwith Avenue does have emergency access only. The important thing to note, folks could not circulate on a regular basis along Beckwith, which is shown in red. That would only be permitted for emergency ingress and egress or access to the site in the case of a fire or other catastrophic emergency. All right, circulation details. So again, Calimesa Boulevard would provide direct access to both planning areas 1 and 2, which are the industrial and residential planning areas. There would be a 92-foot right-of-way with a striped center median. There would be 1 12-foot wide travel lane and 1 20-foot wide travel lane in each direction and a 6-foot sidewalk. There'd be a 2-foot wide landscape buffer provided on the northeast side of Calimesa Boulevard along the project site frontage, and an 8-foot wide landscape buffer area that would be provided on the southwest side of Calimesa Boulevard, abutting I-10. On Beckwith, as previously discussed, there would be emergency vehicle access only to planning area 1. That would be within a 59-foot right-of-way 8-foot parking lane and a 12-foot wide vehicular travel lane in the southbound direction, and an 11-foot wide parking lane and 12-foot wide, travel lane in the northbound direction. There would be a 6-foot wide curb adjacent sidewalk that is provided along the west side of the street. Okay, that's difficult to kind of look at any of those numbers there, but this is a proposed cross-section of Calimesa Boulevard. We can certainly go into additional detail if needed in the Q&A portion of the meeting. Again, another typical section showing that 92-foot right-of-way, the striped median, landscape buffer, and so on. Excuse me, the clicker is sticky. All right, so another proposed cross-section, that's Beckwith Avenue. Again, we can discuss in greater detail during Q&A. It's the southeastern portion of Beckwith there. Here's a typical section facing north, showing screen trees, 8-foot tall screen wall, meandering multi-purpose trail, street trees, and multi-layered plantings with a decorative rail fence. And so on. I won't go into too much detail. There are quite a few sections in the presentation. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have. All right, so for signage, what you're looking at is the overall site plan, signage plan for the overall site plan. That legend's a little bit difficult to read there at that scale, but there are a number of directional signs, tenant signs, address signs, and so on. I would like to draw the Commission's attention to the proposed freeway pylon sign, which there will be elevations of in just a moment. There it is. So this may look familiar. A identical sign was approved across the freeway for Oak Valley Town Center. This is keeping in line with that architecture. You see the logo of the landowner there at the top, Berkshire Development, Oak Valley North. There would be tenant signage, and then at the bottom, City of Calimesa insignia. There would also be 6-foot business entryway monuments. This would be to show the public or folks utilizing the site what's going on within the development. There'd also be 8-foot tenant signs. So there could potentially be, 4 tenants within the buildings, and then also those trailer lots. So the tenants would be permitted to have their own signage. Also directional signage. Again, this is about 100 acres. So within the project, makes some sense there would be some directional signage for people to not get lost within the project site. Okay, wall signage. We're looking at, again, some Berkshire wall logos, tenant wall signs that would be placed on the buildings to indicate who was leasing those spaces. Okay, so this project does include a request for a development agreement. So just to very briefly go into what development agreements are. Development agreements are permitted per government codes, the California state law, and also the Calimesa Municipal Code allow applicants in the city to enter into development agreements, which may be in the city's best interest if we have large projects that may be phased over multiple years. It's often in the developer's and city's best interest to have long-term certainty related to the terms and conditions of such of a development. We'll get into some of those specific terms in just a moment. But just for reference, the city has already entered into a number of development agreements, and it is a pretty standard practice. So also I'd like to note the City Council reserves the sole right to determine whether a development agreement is appropriate and in the best interest of the city. So every action being considered this evening are recommended actions of the Planning Commission, which will then go forward to the City Council for their consideration. And it will be, again, only between the City Council to determine whether or not development agreement is appropriate for this particular development. Okay, so there are some terms. This is not all-inclusive. I would urge the public, Planning Commission, take a look at the packet, the materials that are online. If you'd like to see every term, I have just the highlights here. So as previously stated, One of the primary uses or tools of a development agreement is granting a longer entitlement than normal. So Calimesa Municipal Code it does only allow a 24-month approval, and then you're able to get extensions of time for development plan reviews and conditional use permits, but you're looking at on average a 2 or 3 year approval for a site plan, and then it expires and you'd have to come back. If this development agreement is approved, there would be a vested right to develop for a term of 15 years, okay? And so that right to develop, as shown on the screen, means that the developer shall have a vested right to develop the property in accordance with and to the extent of the development approvals. The permitted uses agreed between both parties would be those uses listed in the Oak Valley North Specific Plan, which the Commission has hard copy before them. And all the current zoning ordinance as of the effective date shall remain permitted uses for the property for the entire term of the agreement, so that 15 years. Okay, fees. There's no request for fee reductions here. The developer would have to pay all normal city development impact fees, pay into our TUMF program, which is our uniform mitigation fee, and also our multi-species habitat conservation plan fee per the applicable ordinances that dictate the timing of those payments. Development agreement fee. So development agreements are negotiated between the city and the applicant, and so development agreements are negotiated by our city manager, and this was one of the items negotiated, was that if approved, the developer will make a payment to the city of $20,000 within 30 days of the effective date of the agreement. This is an important one. So there is also an annual warehouse community benefit contribution. Again, this is negotiated between the applicant and the city. This says that the developer shall make a payment to the city in an amount equal to 2 cents per building square foot per month in perpetuity, forever, or 24 cents per square foot per year. So it's the same amount, just there's a monthly and an annual amount. This annual contribution shall be paid yearly in arrears based on actual square footage leased. So they've got to pay when they have tenants. Makes some sense. Developers shall make a payment to the city in the amount of $100 per net usable acre per month in perpetuity, or $1,200 per net usable acre per year for those trailer storage lots. So the differentiation here is that there is a 2-cent contribution required per leasable square foot of the buildings, but again, we've got 2 lots that don't have significant building square footage. Those trailer storage lots only have little guard shacks, and so this negotiated point would be that the developer needs to submit to the city $1,200 per net usable acre per year for those 2 storage lots. And also, this annual contribution shall be paid yearly in arrears based on the actual acreage leased by the developer in the preceding year. So you can see they kind of true up what was actually leased, and then a payment would be made, I believe we determined by July 31st annually to the city. Okay, fire apparatus. So our fire department loves showing off our ladder truck. So we got a ladder truck provided by another project, and again, it wasn't out of the goodness of anybody's hearts that the city got a ladder truck. It is a requirement in order for the city to provide an adequate level of service to these kind of we'll call wide rise buildings. These are large buildings. We needed a piece of equipment, and so another project did supply the city with the ladder truck. I want to say the total cost was about $2.2 million for that piece of equipment, and the understanding was that that piece of equipment would be provided up front, and any developer that also needed access to that ladder truck would need to reimburse that first developer. And so that gets a little nuanced, but basically they need to pay back that first developer who bought that ladder truck. And so for this particular project, assuming this is the second project sharing the cost of the fire apparatus, this developer would need to pay a total of about $670,000 on a reimbursement basis to that developer that funded that ladder truck to begin with. If that's confusing, happy to answer questions during Q&A on that point. Okay, this is another really important component of the development agreement. This is adjacent property owner benefit contribution. So this was privately negotiated between the applicant and adjacent property owners. So prior to the issuance of the first building permit, Oak Valley North shall offer and pay a one-time benefit contribution to Sharondale Mobile Home Park, Rancho Calimesa Mobile Home Park, and Stabness Early Learning Academy in the total amount of $40,000 for all three. That breaks down to $16,500 to Sharondale, $13,500 to Rancho Calimesa, and $10,000 to the Stabness Early Learning Center, respectively. This payment shall be used at the discretion of these property owners for items such as high efficiency heating, ventilation, and air conditioning filters. Payment shall be made directly to the HOAs, property owner, and operators of those facilities. So that money does not pass through the city. If approved, the developer would be obligated to make those payments directly to those landowners. Local hiring, again, this is in the development agreement. Developer shall provide in each lease to a tenant of a building in the project a requirement that each tenant hold a job fair at the property prior to initial occupancy. Job fair shall be subject to advance notice and advertisement to the local community in the local newspaper, at public meetings, and online as determined by the city manager. And so the intention there is that the city of Calimesa wants to encourage that as many local folks as possible can obtain jobs. You know, if this project is approved, there's a number of jobs that will be provided, and so this local hiring provision would help ensure that local folks have the best chance at obtaining employment. Okay, dedication of parks and trails. So, if approved, the developer shall dedicate to the city for a public park and recreational use what we're calling Beckwith Park and Trail that would be built in connection with the project. There's some timing hooks here on when the various components would need to be constructed. And I would draw everyone's attention to the photo boards that are in the back that show some renderings of the Beckwith Trail. So the Beckwith Trail would be designed and constructed concurrent with Beckwith Avenue. So early in the presentation we talked about how there would be street improvements to Beckwith, and so this trail would happen concurrently with those street improvements. The park, however, is a little bit longer of a lead time on a timing hook. The developer shall obtain city approval of the park design prior to the second project certificate of occupancy. So each building or trailer lot that's being requested in order to operate needs what's called a certificate of occupancy. So essentially what this is saying is that by the second occupancy permit, they need to have that park designed. And then by that third occupancy permit, the park would need to be dedicated to the city. And some timing hooks there. Okay, there are a number of off-site public improvements here, including widening of Calimesa Boulevard. Again, I'm going through development agreement provisions, so we may have covered some of this earlier in the presentation, but these are listed as off-site public improvements within the DA. We'd have widening of Beckwith. We'd have installation of traffic signals at the project main entry off of Calimesa Boulevard, relocation of Yucaipa Valley Water District sewer lift station, installation of a number of storm drain facilities. Let's see, what else do we have? Storm drain, water line extension. It looks like 990 linear feet there along Calimesa Boulevard. Okay, so those are the off-site improvements. So now the environmental assessment. This is environmental assessment 2202. The state clearinghouse number is listed there at the top of the slide. So this slide just describes that there was a lengthy, robust, and thorough environmental analysis that took place in accordance with CEQA for this project. The EIR provided analysis of the environmental impacts associated with the project and provided potential project alternatives. After the analysis was completed and all feasible mitigation measures were incorporated, the project would result in less than significant impacts in all areas with some exceptions. So those CEQA resource areas are listed there on the screen: aesthetics, agriculture and forestry, air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, and so on. Number of resources there. And so among all of those resources, there were 3 areas that would result in significant impacts related to this project. Those would be air quality, greenhouse gas, and transportation, each which would have a significant and unavoidable impact as a result of the project. Okay, there are a number of recommendations here before you. I won't go through each one. I think we have a total of 11 resolutions. Again, we're looking at recommended approval of environmental assessment, general plan amendment, zone change, site plans, and so on. Okay, myself, Mike Thornton, and the applicant are all here available to you to answer questions, but at this time I would like to ask that the commission please disclose if you had any off-site meetings with the developer, approximately how many, and the general content of what those meetings may have contained.
Begin with you, John? None? Phone call?
Just for the record, Commissioner Keith, you had one phone call with Berkshire Development?
Yeah, phone call to set up a meeting, and I had somebody had a nerve killing me, so we never got to talk about anything.
Okay, so no substantive meeting occurred. Thank you.
I had two meetings, and I was presented the project, but gave absolutely no direction or anything towards it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Christine.
I had 2 meetings as well, just plan review meetings.
Plan review meetings?
Correct.
Okay.
And likewise, I also had 2 meetings with the applicant, looking at designs, and that's the extent of that.
Okay, so each commissioner that met with the applicant only received information, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, with that, I would like to invite Lindsay up. She is the project representative. She also has a presentation this evening for us. Yep. Where's that? Yep.
My name is Lindsay Mansker. I am the Director of Development for Berkshire Development. I am here to present on behalf of the applicant tonight, BICM Land Holding. I'd like to take this time to thank City staff and Planning Commission for allowing us to be on the agenda this evening. And I'd like to sincerely thank the City staff for all their hard work and collaboration over the last few years working on this project. Your expertise, dedication, and commitment to the community have been evident at every stage of this process. Your thoughtful feedback and insight have been invaluable in guiding us to this project, or to this point, excuse me. Berkshire Development is an 85-year-old, fifth-generation family-owned company ran by father and daughter, Brandy and Brooke Berkshire, who are both present here with us this evening. At Berkshire, we strive to be active members in our communities we build in and aim to hold our assets long-term and manage them in-house. Since we do hold our assets long-term, that means we build for quality and design with intention. We are community-focused and pride ourselves in being environmentally friendly with efforts in building state-of-the-art Class A real estate that exceed community and end-user expectations. I'd like to talk about how we got to the current proposed project. Over the past 2 years, we've revised the project multiple times through extensive community outreach, meeting with neighboring communities as groups, and community members one-on-one, as well as frequent meetings with the city with efforts to receive feedback that we could apply towards the ultimate land planning for the project site. 2 of our previous site plan iterations were made up of larger buildings that would require deviating from the city's municipal code in that it would exceed the city's warehouse size cap of 250,000 square feet, as well as a 500-foot distance required from any warehouse building parcel to an existing sensitive receptor. This was our original site plan that was proposed, made up of much larger buildings that was market-driven. Here we have our second site plan iteration made up of smaller buildings than the first. However, this plan would still require the same municipal code deviations. During our community outreach efforts and conversations with city staff, it was a general consensus that we honor the hard work and land planning that went into the efforts to the municipal code requirements for warehouse sizes and their proximity to existing sensitive receptors. We were also originally proposing additional multifamily at the end of Beckwith, as shown in the pink area on this slide at the top right. But again, during community outreach efforts, nearby communities preferred no additional traffic be introduced onto Beckwith. Because of the previously mentioned reasons, we went back to the drawing board and formulated a plan that would comply with all municipal code requirements. The proposed plan before you reduced not only the size of the buildings, but also removed the multifamily along Beckwith, replacing that space with park open space. This current site plan contributes no additional traffic onto Beckwith and is uniquely designed for the quick access on and off the 10 freeway via Calimesa Boulevard. Each building is now less than 250,000 square feet, and each warehouse parcel is now at least 500 feet away from all existing sensitive receptors. While we understand we are not going to satisfy all community members' desires for this property, we've taken great efforts to listen to the community and help shape this project in such a manner that responds to the community concerns, develops according to the city's intended build-out for the property and general plan, in addition to creating a viable project for us. Now, Kelly was very thorough in discussing the community benefits, but I did want to reiterate just the development impact fees, not only commuting to Calimesa's development impact program, but also the multi-species habitat conservation plan, transfer and uniform mitigation fees, school fees, and also fair share traffic contribution fees. She went over offsite infrastructure, but in addition, the annual economic benefits, the project will be contributing over $600,000 property tax revenue to the city, $152,000 in direct sales tax for the city, over $88 million in labor income during construction, $297 million at project build-out. The project will bring over 1,000 jobs during construction and over 3,000 jobs during project build-out. Now, during public comment period and extensive outreach efforts, many community members presented concerns regarding potential traffic impacts that the project would bring and suggested alternative land uses for the project site. A couple of the more frequent ideas we heard were a retail center and a medical plaza. By the way, both of these scenarios would require zone changes, as those land uses are not consistent with the current zoning of the project, which is business park, light industrial, and residential. The table on this slide shows the potential implications of these scenarios in terms of daily trips. The first line shows the proposed project with business park, light industrial, and residential zoning, which will create an estimated 7,000 daily vehicle trips. We have intentionally reduced the floor area ratio of the allowed 50% coverage down to 25%. The second line shows the current zoning of the project, and if built out to the allowed 50% coverage, would result in over 1.7 million square feet of building space and could create over 17,000 daily trips. The third line represents a big box retail, which if built according to the city's regional commercial zoning, would allow for over 3.5 million square feet of retail space, which would create over 52,000 daily trips. The last line represents a medical plaza with a hospital and supporting offices, which if built according to the city's community commercial zoning, would allow for over 2.1 million square feet of space, which would generate over 66,000 daily trips. These alternate project scenarios would generate significantly more traffic compared to the proposed project. As we all know, more vehicle trips result in worse air quality and GHG impacts. I'd like to now turn your attention to some simulations we prepared of the project street views, elevations, and features. Here's an aerial of the entire site. Here is the drive up Calimesa Boulevard and into the main entrance of the project. As you can see, there is a significant slope and setback from the street to the first building. We have also created design guidelines for the project so that the architecture blends well with the neighboring developments. As you see here, the project features native landscaping, and the buildings feature neutral color tones and pitched roofs, giving a more farmhouse feel. Here you can see the vantage point from the Sharondale community, and as you see here, there is no visibility to any buildings or parking on site. The project is designed with a perimeter screen wall and heavy landscaping on both sides of the wall, creating a large buffer. We've also taken advantage of the natural contours of the site by utilizing and landscaping the significant slope on the project side of the screen wall along Beckwith Avenue and the abutting edge of the Rancho Calimesa Mobile Home Park. In doing so, the trailer lots are entirely screened and only the tops of the buildings are visible from Beckwith Avenue. The project also features a multi-use trail along Beckwith. This trail has been designed to move away from the traditional business park landscaping design and focuses more on a natural feeling as you walk down the path. The trail will be made up of decomposed granite and will feature native planting, shade trees, stone blocks and boulders for seating, as well as a split rail fence that separates the trail from the sidewalk and the street. As you can see here, the trail blends in well with the environment to provide a comfortable walking experience. As previously mentioned, the trail will feature shade trees and stone blocks strategically placed along the trail for users to rest and enjoy the scenery. And here is a flyover of the project site where you can more visualize the slope differences, not only from Beckwith to the first parking stall, but also between the trailer lots and the warehouse buildings. The project also has implemented numerous environmental green features. Some of those include 14 electric truck charging stations, 38 auto EV charging stations with infrastructure for an additional 110 additional chargers, requirements for zero-emission yard hustlers and forklifts, rooftop solar to offset tenant electrical consumption. There will be no cold storage permitted on site, 130 bicycle spaces, all concrete paving to reduce solar heat gain, and all truck courts are facing inward. In closing, I would like to reiterate that the project is consistent with the existing zoning and complies with the city's municipal code. The development of the project site and its off-site improvements will also help shorten evacuation times and reduce potential wildfires. The project will bring over $750,000 in property and sales tax revenue to the city, as well as over 3,000 jobs. The project is contributing over $265,000 annually forever to the city of Calimesa, and will contribute $13.1 to $15.7 million in development impact fees. On a final note, I'd like to reaffirm our dedication to this project, to the city of Calimesa, and to ensuring this project is executed responsibly and sustainably. We firmly believe that the benefits of this project, combined with our committed efforts to the community, will bring substantial positive outcomes to the city and its residents, including economic growth, job creation, and enhanced infrastructure. Thank you so much and appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Is that it for staff presentation and the
Yes.
go to public comment? Okay. With that, we'll now go to public testimony. First up will be Mr. James Wright. You want to be last? Okay. Let's go with Mr. John Gates. John Gates? Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
That's pretty hard to follow. It's very pretty. Unfortunately, it's in the wrong place, okay? But that's okay. I'd like to start out to just say that what have the developers so far offered Calimesa in the last 2 or 3 years, okay? Fact one, we have 2 vacant warehouses already been built. They're dormant. They're on the eastbound. You all know where that is, the Cherry Valley Boulevard location. That's a 13 to 14 month extension that's being built. It's stalled right now. The Oak Valley Development Company is a bankrupt, Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is stalled. It's affecting the Oak Valley Town Center. The City Hall, obviously, that's been promised is in the, been stalled by that. The Summer Wind home development is in phase 1 of 5 with only 600 built homes, which is revenue, okay? And I believe it's like 10,000 homes is a big picture on that development. It's less than that. Anyway, the bottom line is it's stalled on the other 4 phases. Mesa Verde, no pods can be done right now because, no warehouses. Indian artifacts have been found, which is holding up the project as I understand it. Also, the Indian burial sites, okay? Are you familiar with that situation? Are you? I guess I'm not,
Yeah, Mr. Gates, it's not your time to ask us questions to answer, it's for you to give us your input on
okay,
this
I didn't
particular
know the
project.
protocol, okay? I'm
Yeah,
used to the
that's
city
okay.
council.
Just
would be-
clarifying the point.
All right. Okay. Okay, the future facts. The Berkshire organization, which I'm an Orange County guy, by the way, Newport Beach. You're proposing adding 4 more warehouses. That's 982,232 square feet. That's 764 vehicle parking spaces, 1,047 truck and trailer parking spaces, total 1,811 spaces. The design, in reality, is actually a truck and trailer parking lot with a lot of ambiance. It's still a warehouse facility. I'm a sensitive receptor, okay? Which means it's right in the middle of 800 residents that are 55 and up.
Your time is up, sir. Yeah, as I started out with
530 homes.
this evening, we each have 3 minutes, 3 minutes. We've got plenty of people that we got to get through this evening, ma'am, so 3 minutes. You can't do that. That was mentioned at the onset of the meeting, so thank you, sir, for your time. What I do want to
Thank you.
clarify is you did mention that 2 warehouses were already in the city. That's not accurate. Those 2 warehouses that are off of Cherry Valley belong to the county area. They're not the city's. They're not ours. We
They're
never.
still warehouses.
Yes, they are warehouses, but we didn't have anything to do with them.
You got warehouses proposed in Sun Lakes, which I used to
I
live
was
in.
just making a point for clarification,
Yeah,
sir.
I'm
Thank
making
you.
a point too.
Okay, next will be Greg Card.
Thank you. I'm Craig Card. I live on Beckwith Avenue. I have 700 feet of frontage along Beckwith. Nobody's talked to me, come to me personally at all about my property. But what I am asking is the tentative parcel map that was sent to us. You can't read it, not even with a magnifying glass. And why would, it doesn't do any good to see what's going on. It's a nice looking road. What they have proposed there is all the infrastructure going to be brought down the road. I'm wondering that for all the properties down Beckwith. And I think that's pretty much what I was going to ask. There was a lot of stuff explained here and other information that's been said to us, but can we get some of this literature that was shown today on Beckwith?
Yes, so the full staff report and all attachments are posted on the city website. Anybody that would like a direct link can contact me. My name is Kelly Lucia. I'm the planning director here for the city. If you would like copies of the PowerPoint presentations, also happy to provide those to you and post them on the city website.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll have Helen Card. Okay, thank you. Jonathan Daly.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Jonathan Daly. I got a haircut for this moment, so hopefully this goes well. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm a proud member
Thank
of
you for
LIUNA.
your service.
We got some others.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Proud member of LIUNA Laborers Union. Tonight I'm here on behalf of them. They're all standing and also in bright orange, so you can't miss them. And all of our families. It's a lot of families standing here that we're representing, and this doesn't even scratch the surface. So me, myself, I'm a husband and father. My son will be 1 year old this weekend. So that's my reason why I come here to fight for these jobs. I fight for them, for our health care. I wanted to actually re-enlist in the military, but I couldn't due to knee reconstruction surgery. Destroyed my knee, so I still had some fight left in me, so this job helps me fulfill that. I fight for growth in our community, which is extremely important. And we're fighting for the developer. The The developer is committed to us. We supply well-trained union workforce. We build to the highest standards. Safety is unmatched. So we're here in full support of this project. I want to thank you for your time, for hearing me speak tonight, and we hope you do the same.
Thank you, sir. And again, thank you for your service. We'll go with Mr. Robert Lugan.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners.
Good evening.
My name is Robert Lugan. I'm with Local 416 Ironworkers. My union brothers all know me as AKA Mad Dog. I took that Marine Corps mentality to be Sergeant of Arms 9 years of my trade. I am an Inland Empire District Council member, delegate, and so when I know something works, then I back it up. I retired back in 2008, but I'm still here. I'm like an ambassador. I feel that way, but I feel that my job is still not done. And so we are here today to support this project and to ask for the commissioner's support as well as yes votes tonight. This project will bring so much to the city of Calimesa, and the developer has made a commitment to local hire. This is a guarantee that our children and families will be taken care of, our medical benefits and a prosperous family ahead of them. Please support our community, our families, and Calimesa community with a yes vote today. I am a product of an organization called Helmets to Hard Hats. And so we take in the military to join the ironworkers, the carpenters, the laborers, electricians, pipe fitters. So it's not just us, citizens, but it is the military personnel that want to put forth and earn a good living for the families. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, sir. Mr. John Sisley?
Hi, I'm John Sisley. I represent all the union plumbers, pipe fitters, and refrigeration for San Bernardino and Riverside counties. I'm also a delegate to the Building Trades Commission, State of California, and a delegate to the Inland Empire Labor Council. I'm also an ex-Army Airborne Ranger. You know, there's a time and a place for everything. This is the place to build an industrial park and a warehouse. And as far as timing, you've got a great union agreement on this job. So you're going to put a lot of community members to work at a sustainable wage with benefits. Not only that, this will be a target area for the Inland Empire Labor Council, and we will try and organize those warehouses as they're built. We don't get that chance if you don't build them. We support this project and your yes votes today, and it shows that you support us and Calimesa as a whole. This project allows our hardworking men and women to advance their careers while earning middle-class wages and benefits. Most importantly, the developer has made a pledge to hire local and skilled construction workforce members to build their vision, ensuring a high-quality project and ensuring the community's basic economic needs by supporting the people all around. This project is great for our community, and we strongly urge you to vote yes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And for all of our military veterans that are here, thank you for your service. I don't want to say it every time you guys come up, but we're very thankful for your service for each and every one of you that have served. Mr. Rob Ramos.
Good evening. My name is Robert Ramos.
Good evening.
I am here on behalf of the ironworkers as well to express our support of this project and ask for your yes vote tonight. Building a project such as this will create jobs and build a stronger and better community from day one. The developer has committed to local hire, and this will put hundreds of men and women to work, like me, to work earning a fair wage and safeguarding our children and families' futures. A yes vote today will show us that Calimesa, that you care about positive development and a stronger future for everyone. Show your support by a yes vote today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Israel C.
I just want to say good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
Respects and thanks to our veterans here. So, honoring this plan, I am here tonight to speak in favor of the Oak Valley North Project. I want to highlight two distinct important types of these benefits for this project. So, by the approval, for first, we have direct community benefits. This would include annual cash contribution to the city to be utilized at the city and its residents' discretion, requiring job fairs which promote local hiring, significant annual tax revenue for the city. Another, we have indirect community benefits, which would include 1,000 construction jobs. It would include project development. It would include $80 million in construction wages for this project, ongoing employment for over 500 local residents. For this project of the city, I would love people to vote yes. Thank you for my time up on stage. I thank everyone here, and I wanted to thank and give bless to God. Thank everyone for your time and letting me stand up here and give a vote.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Joshua Gastrom, if I mispronounced your last name, I apologize.
Good evening, Honorable Planning Commission Chair and fellow commissioners. My name is Joshua Gastelum, and I am here to speak in loud and proud support of the Oak Valley North Project. My generation needs jobs, flat out. And this project is nearly 1 million square feet of opportunities, and the average warehouse produces 400 jobs per 600,000 square feet of space. So this project would produce roughly 600 permanent jobs for the whole community. This project also includes about 1,000 construction jobs, and those jobs would include local hire provisions, and those construction jobs are middle-class wages jobs, as you've heard from these gentlemen in orange here. So by approving this project, you are providing literally thousands of families with opportunities to live, work, and invest into their futures locally here in Calimesa. Therefore, you are sowing good seed into the soil here to produce an economic crop that will nourish our community for generations. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, sir. Zach Stresters.
All right. Good evening. Thank you, Planning Commission. Thank you for everybody that came and took their time to come out tonight. First and foremost, my name is Zach Strassers. I'm with CARE California. I want to take a little bit of a look at Calimesa, right? There's a lot of attention on this project, but I think it's important that we understand, especially for those that are here for this hearing, and maybe for some folks it's their first time to Calimesa. So I'm not a local resident, so I had to learn a little bit. What CARE California does is we make sure that projects are a good fit for the communities they're planned in. So before we come up, we don't rubber stamp anything. We take a long, hard look at the project, and we take a look at the cities in which they're being built. So I noticed a couple things about data that maybe even some of the Calimesa citizens don't know. For example, that the 16 to 19-year-old unemployment rate in Calimesa is over 10%. The second interesting fact that I noted was that for the 30 to 34-year-old range, it's 4%, which is about 0.5% higher than the national average for unemployment. So in both of those categories, you're going to see a one-to-one match for many of the jobs that are going to be offered by the permanent employment that's provided. So we want to understand this project with regards to the community that it's being built in, and even within this community of Calimesa, two specific age range populations, 18 and 19-year-olds that are maybe unskilled, that are looking for an opportunity to enter into the workforce. You're talking about nearly 1 million square feet of upfront open hand opportunity. We're not talking about handouts, we're talking about hands up. Second of all, when you look at a 30 to 34-year-old population, you're talking about people that are either looking for second sources of income for their growing families, or you're looking at people that are looking to rebuild their lives. Again, unskilled entry-level positions are absolutely essential for this demographic population. I want to go a little bit further. I want to take a look at some other elements that are more specific to the project with regards to budget and finance. So absolutely congratulations to Calimesa for over $7 million of budget surplus, that report that came out last month. But we want to also take a look at the fact that you want to look for growth and positive, sustainable numbers when it comes to budgets, when it comes to coffers moving forward. Not to rest on the laurels of yesterday's victories, because it's going to take a while to build this project. But we also want to look at that, though, two specific things other than the budget itself. Let's take a look at the housing. We had a RENA presentation tonight. So when we look at low density, the construction jobs that include a local hire component are going to help to fill low density home ownership. The RIPAOZ numbers that we're looking at come with the permanent jobs that are being provided. Let's not forget about tens of $1 million that are going to come in project impact fees that are essential to be able to keep your budgets in surplus, as well as nearly $1 million annually that are going to go into your taxes. So this developer has taken the time to understand their community. You're getting a crown jewel for this type of project. It's beautiful for the location. For those reasons, CARE California asks that you approve this project. Thanks, and God bless you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. David Zates.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is David Zates. I'm a Calimesa resident. Essentially, the Oak Valley North project applicant is requesting a series of actions that supports realignment of the zoning of the rezoning of the property to allow for the construction of warehouses and a truck parking lot. Due to public pressure, the developer complied with the letter of the law concerning sensitive receptors. And the proposal in front of you today is designed to comply to the letter of the law. However, the project does not comply with the intent of local ordinances to protect sensitive receptors. Again, the project does not comply with the intent of local ordinances to protect sensitive receptors. A portion of the project will allow tractors to pass within 150 feet of nearby homes and senior communities. The developer will tell you the law to protect our older citizens does not apply because that portion of the project is the truck parking lot. You requested to make discretionary approvals. As such, in exchange for your approval, you as commissioners are free to add additional conditions. In order to protect existing homeowners and our senior residents, it is suggested that the project design be modified so that trucks can get no closer than 500 feet from any home. That would be consistent with the warehouse ordinance. Again, in order to protect adjacent homeowners, you should put additional restrictions on this project that calls for a design that will limit truck traffic from passing no less than 500 feet from a person's home. I think this is reasonable. It makes the project conform with the intent of existing law, and it protects the citizens. But we also can have a project. So we need to have a balance. We need to have a balance between the right of existing homeowners and the rights of new property owners. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Blake Ferris.
Evening. My name is Blake Ferris, resident here in Calimesa. I'm not against progress or change, but I am against it when it negatively impacts wildlife, air quality, traffic, property values, and the quality of life. Oak Valley North negatively impacts all of these. Significant and unavoidable. This term is used in the environmental impact report 116 times. That's a 970-page document that you guys are holding. Essentially, this statement means that this project will have negative consequences with irreversible environmental damages to the city of Calimesa and its residents. Surrounding environments will show within half mile of the project you have the following. Senior Community Sharondale, over 200 homes. Rancho Calimesa, over 200 homes. Stavnus Learning School, over 50 children attend daily. And then Montessori Academy, over 100 children attend daily. All these sensitive receptors will have negative long-term effects. According to the U.S. Census for Riverside County, there's approximately 3 residents per household in the city of Calimesa. That's about 1,000 residents within a half mile of this project. Most of them are elderly or children. That's about 10% of the city of Calimesa. Here's a document from the Attorney General from the state of California, best practices for warehouse projects. If you turn to page 6, right here, it says per California Air Resource Board requirements, warehouses should be sitting at least 1,000 feet from property lines of sensitive receptors. Oak Valley North does not meet this requirement. The mission statement of Calimesa is to preserve and improve the quality of life. This project does nothing but destroy the quality of life for the residents. Let it be on record of you four of the Planning Commission, of yes voting tonight, you're disenfranchising the residents of Calimesa and destroying their quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Randy Enstein.
Honorable Chair and Commission members, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak this evening. It's truly great to be back in one of the finest cities in Riverside County. I spent 7 years here as city manager, and I'm really gratified to see that so many of the projects that Mike and I worked on, along with Kevin Ennis, have come to fruition. Basically, I want to say that it's been a real pleasure dealing with Kelly and Mike and their staffs. They've been very helpful and very cooperative. This evening, I'm here as a board member of the Catholic Diocese Land Development Board, and we're just very appreciative of the cooperation that we've had from the city and from the Bircher Group. They've been very helpful and very cooperative in working with us. So with that, I have other colleagues here from the diocese. I do want to say that as a Air Force and Vietnam veteran, I'm very happy to be here in the company of my fellow veterans, and thank you this evening.
Thank you, sir. Yvonne Washington.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
I'm in the Sharondale community. I'm a resident there. I was happy to hear that she had addressed many of the concerns we had when you came to our community. On the other hand, there's the 2 men before the diocese, they have facts of things that we were very concerned about, and that's our health. And like they said, it needs to be 1,000 feet. You know, all those statistics need to be addressed before, you know, we go forward. I appreciate, like I said, she did an excellent job on the wall and not entering Beckwith because that's dangerous. We probably need a signal on Beckwith and Singleton because we can barely get out now of our homes. And that's our exit, Beckwith. So if that can be addressed, our health, the fumes, we can't have idling of those big trucks, semis, that causes, I can't have it. I moved there to Sharondale. One reason is so I could breathe well. And if those things aren't addressed by the 2 men who talked before, it's going to be a problem for many other people in that community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. James Wright.
Okay, everybody's got my presentation page. Another 7 pages that starts with the Black's Law Dictionary and a current final environmental impact report. I'm going to try to get this done in 3 minutes, but I'm rejecting and objecting to all of the applications tonight of disapproval for them. This letter is in opposition to the Planning Commission's recommended action concerning the Oak Valley North Warehouse project, and I'm asking the Planning Commission not to approve the development applications. This includes master site planning and general plan EIR, and not to approve or certify any final EIR. On page 177 of the EIR, I said this response was in conjunction with my previous objections to the Oak Valley North project dated 1/6/23 and 8/25/23 that highlight my objections within the body of the pages that I had submitted, describing significant negative and unavoidable project activity that threatens the lives of the communities of Rancho Calimesa, Sharondale, JP Ranch, Singleton Heights, and Plantation on their lake, and their families young and old. Over 1,000 residents, over 1,000. In the final environmental impact report response to my objections to the draft EIR, 7 pages of my objections were not included in the body of the pages I submitted to the draft EIR, and because of this important omission, none of my comments counted and were not included to be analyzed in the administrative record. The EIR was not thorough. This omission deprived me of my constitutional right to due process and is prejudicial, also discriminatory, as it contains evidence about toxic air contaminants that hurt sensitive receptors. See page 178 in the final EIR, where I had Riverside County and Riverside City EIR on air quality about the particulate dangers like diesel exhaust particles that can remain in the air for 10 days. The California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, Article 7, Chapter 15088, under evaluation and response to comments. Comments must be addressed in detail and must be in good faith, reasoned analysis response. This was not adhered to and is a breach of the administrative process and is the reason for non-approval by the City of Calimesa's Planning Commission and voting members of the City Council for non-compliance. Your tax-paying residents need your protection and respect and not be ignored. They need to know that you care about them.
Your time is up, Mr. Wright.
And their loved ones, young and old. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Those are all the speaker slips that I have. Was there anybody that was overlooked who did not turn in a speaker slip? Okay, with that, we'll close our public testimony, and we can go back to applicant rebuttal if there's any points of interest you'd like to comment on.
Scott Mulcahy with Berkshire Development, and I'll be brief. Thank you again for your time. Thank you again for the time of all the labor workforce as well as the residents. Just a couple of points I wanted to reiterate. I won't take too much time, but again, as we tried to emphasize in our presentation, we've spent a tremendous amount of time massaging this project and getting it to the point where it is. We do realize that not everyone is going to be happy. There were a couple of comments that were brought up that I would like to perhaps address head on. One was the lady over here talking about a traffic signal at Singleton and Beckwith, and we have offered to do, obviously there's technical components that go into that. You can't just put a traffic signal wherever you want to, but we have offered to do what's called a warrant study, and should one be determined by the city to be required to participate in the construction of that traffic signal, even though our project doesn't put traffic onto that particular street. So I did want to at least address that comment. The other thing, and I'm going to actually ask a technical consultant to come up because there was a lot of technical information that was brought up relative to air quality and sensitive receptors. So obviously I'd like someone that's a little more versed in that than I am to talk to that, if that's all right. So I'd ask
thank you.
Tracy Zinn to come up.
Good evening.
Tracy Zinn with TMB Planning. We assisted the city in preparing the environmental impact report for the project. In response to a couple of comments, to Mr. Wright's comments that perhaps he did submit comments that weren't included in the final EIR, we're not aware of any comments that were omitted. The Planning Commission is not certifying the EIR, you're just making a recommendation to the City Council. We will go back with, coordinate with Kelly, make sure that nothing was admitted in the EIR. If we find that something was, there's still an opportunity to respond to those comments and get them into the public record before the City Council.
Okay, thank you.
And it is the City Council that will be certifying the EIR, not this one. Regarding air quality, there was a comment regarding the recommendations for the 1,000-foot buffer. That recommendation was born from an Air Resources Board recommendation about 20 years ago. And that recommendation stated that any development within 1,000 feet should be studied to make sure that there was protective measures in place for health. The environmental impact report was supported by extensive technical expertise and analysis. We looked at various different development scenarios with the residents, with the church, different types of occupant types for the building itself, and all of the air pollutant levels are below the significant thresholds that are established by the Air Quality Management District. The author of the Air Quality Technical Report is here if you want to go deeper into the analysis of air quality, but we're happy to provide that information.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that answer. They were just addressing that comment that was made by them, so.
No further applicant rebuttal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, perfect, thank you. I'm sorry, one more time? Ah, okay. Okay, so at this time, we'll close our public testimony and close the public hearing, and now we'll have a commissioner discussion. John, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Start with me, huh? It's quite an undertaking, and Berkshire Outfit's got a good name behind them. My only concern, and I've been in transportation almost 40 years, and trucks used to be dirty, and now they're so clean, they're almost as clean as cars. So, but the only thing I'm concerned about is any highway planning and road infrastructure in order to get to the project once you start working on it. And I live on the other side of Cherry Valley. It takes an hour sometimes, and they don't have we're going to have a diverging diamond eventually when Caltrans comes to work with us. But that's my main concern, is just the infrastructure that has to make it work. So that's it, Chairman.
Thank you. Mike?
Oh, boy. Gotta tell you. Your site engineer needs a good thumbs up. This is a perfect job right here to go from 3 buildings down to 4 buildings and only add 32 truck bays on the 4 buildings, only going up 32. Excellent. Now, just to clarify on the parking, the truck trailer parking, that is only trailer parking because as I see it, the spots are 55 foot long, which 53, because we're not driving East Coast trucks that are 65, we're 53. So that is only trailer parking and not truck parking. Just to clarify that up, right? Yeah. Those little electric Joe Dogs that we use?
They're goats.
Goats?
Yep, the goats.
90% of the time, yeah.
Or a yard hostler. So as we indicated in our sustainability features, if there is one that's used at the site, there is a requirement that it be zero emission. So it would either be a CNG type yard hostler or an electric yard hostler as technology continues to progress.
Right, thank you. And the spacing between the sensitive receptors of mobile home parks and things like that, I mean, you're at the 500 feet to Rancho, to the closest building there, and the same thing on the other side. And all the off-site improvements that you're doing, completing all the way from the project to Singleton Road, I think you've done a great job. And that's all I have.
Christine?
Yeah, I agree completely with Mike, with what he just said as far as with the yard goats and everything and it not coming within 150 feet. I think that's a really, really good point, and you guys did a great job with everything. And your community involvement, tailoring it back to getting it just pretty much right. I think that the economic development, with all of the jobs, I think that it's huge, and the labor force to come out to actually stand up and say, hey, this is what we're fighting for, is something that's really cool, and it's really awesome to see such involvement. So that's all I have.
So just for clarification, the payments to the city would be made if those buildings are occupied, correct? So if the buildings sit empty for a number of period of time, there's no payments that'll be made while it's empty.
Correct. It's based on the total leasable square footage of the building and/or of the trailer storage lots when they're leased. So it's paid based in arrears from the year before, and there's a true-up annually on July 31st.
So if it ends up sitting empty for a couple of years, then we just have a couple buildings there, 4 buildings without any payment to the city?
Potentially. Again, as a negotiated point, the city would not ask the developer to spend significant funds of that nature without the ability to recoup some of those through leases.
Okay. And so as far as the air quality rule, I think you did a great job explaining that, the 1,000 feet. I hope that would be sufficient to some of the concerns that were made, that we're still within a 500 feet distance to some of those residents, which seem to be a very...
It's not 500 feet. 160 feet into Ranch Calimesa.
Okay, sir, it's not time for you, sir. So I think that the 500-foot that we're seeing laid out by you guys have gone through extensive measures to accommodate that. The layout of the property it's nice. It's a lot better from the times that we've met with your group. I got to be honest, coming into this evening, I don't know that I was completely in favor of this project, just because of where it was at. And rezoning that whole area to accommodate this build out, I was really just waiting to see the whole picture first. Yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff in there for the city and for each community around there. And apparently the communities are all good with that. They've made these arrangements with you guys. So I don't really have anything else to say.
One more question. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot something. For the permitted uses on the summary of development agreement terms, as far as there's going to be like no changes within 15 years from the zoning ordinance of the effective date, is that saying that effective this approval that there will be no changes within 15 years if there's extensions? Is that what that's saying?
No. So I'd just like to remind the commission there would be no approvals this evening. These would be recommended approvals to the city council. So it would be the effective date of the ordinance, which is typically 30 days after adoption. So essentially what that provision is saying is that this developer is vesting, or for lack of a better word, kind of locking in those development standards. Say if this project is approved in 7 or 8 or 9 years, the city says, we want to change the industrial development standards. Those changes would not apply within the boundary of this project because they were vested via the development agreement for a period of 15 years. Does that make sense? Basically, we couldn't change the rules on them because they've agreed to and negotiated in good faith with the city the terms and provisions of the development agreement.
But they can come back and make changes anytime.
I wouldn't say anytime. So this is a legislative action. The specific plan that's in front of you would be the binding document for development of the site. So say the applicant wanted to make some significant revision to what we're looking at this evening, they couldn't do so without subsequent actions. There are provisions related to modifications and amendments within the development agreement, so I would defer to that provision. But typically, again, if there's an amendment or revision being requested, that would come back through the public hearing process for an amendment.
Thank you.
So, yeah, just to finish up, you guys did go above and beyond, I think, to make accommodations for everyone. I'm still, me personally, still a little concerned with the location of where it's at, but that's just a concern that I have, unfortunately, with the zoning that's currently there and the nature of the proximity to downtown, essentially geographic area of our city. Yeah, so those are the only comments that I have at this time. Okay. Nothing else, right?
Nope.
Okay. So with that, we'll go to a motion on this particular agenda item number 6. If somebody would like to make a motion on that.
Are we doing them one at a time, or are we gonna do all 11 in one shot?
I'm going to ask my illustrious city attorney, who's still on the line up there, can they do all 11 motions at once, or do we need to take those separately? I think you may have a little bit of a lag. And Kevin, that was a question for you, if you can hear.
If they are inclined to vote in favor of all of the resolutions, they can do it as one motion.
Thank you.
In that case, I'll make the motion that the planning commission approve items 1 through 11 on the,
Yes, and did you hear me? I said that they can do one motion to approve all the resolutions.
Thank you.
So is that sufficient, 1 through 11?
Yes.
You want me to?
Go ahead and do it.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I
Okay,
made the motion.
You did?
Motion was seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Just to confirm, I have 1 nay.
That's correct. So that's basically it for that.
I gotta go back to book 1.
Pardon me? 3 to 1. Okay, with that, we'll go to commissioners' reports and comments. We'll start with John.
I really don't have any at this time. I certainly want to thank staff for them. Each young lady and welcome. They worked hard to put this stuff together. They worked their days off in order to do it. And to be commended.
All right, thank you, Mike.
This is a good deal right here. I'm really happy everything worked out.
We're still in a meeting, folks. If you could please keep it down.
And I want to thank staff for their super hard work on all this paperwork that we've got right here and everything. They went above and beyond, and I think it was quite an effort. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Christine?
No, just second, thank you staff for putting this all together, and thank you, for staying after. I know it's been a lot of work, and a lot of time and a lot of effort went into all of this. So thank you staff, thank you everyone.
Thank you. I would like to also thank staff. This was a very extensive project, had a lot of material, and I know there was a lot of extra hours put in for it, so thank you guys tremendously for doing that. And thank all the public and people that came in to speak on this particular issue. Your voice matters, your opinion matters, and we absolutely want to hear that, so thank you guys for doing that. And lastly, I'd like to thank Christine for chairing the last meeting for me while I was out ill. Did a fantastic job, thank you.
Thank you guys.
And With that, we'll go to the planning director for her reports and comments.
Thank you. So I'd also like to give thanks to the commission and the public for coming out this evening. Also, I think I personally need to give a huge shout out to our administrative staff. Chrissy, Patrice, and Yesa did a lot of work to get this publication out, including over 600 public hearing notices that were licked and stuck and sent out. So thank you to our team for all of your help. Looking forward, I just would like folks to have an eye on future council agendas. So you may recall that the Planning Commission recommended an increase for public hearing notifications. That's going to be heard by the City Council on August the 5th. So anybody interested in that item, please either come in or watch online. We are anticipating both the housing element, the overlay zone revision, and the Oak Valley North project that were all discussed this evening to go to City Council on August the 19th at 6 p.m. So folks that are interested, that's the actual approval or denial of the project. Please participate, and please do keep an eye on the city website and public hearing notices, because these dates are subject to change, but this is just what we're projecting right now for council dates. And that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll adjourn tonight's regular meeting until Monday, August 12th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Back here at the Norton Younglove Multipurpose Senior Center. Thank you so much, and